Welcome back to DeRo and the Diehard. It's our 13th episode. It's just me this week. DeRo is at the World Cup draw in Washington, D.C., where we will find out the groups for the 2026 World Cup. Very exciting. Much to talk about today. We have a World Cup draw, a conversation. We're going to have a conversation about potentially the best player in the world in Kylian Mbappe. And then for the first time ever in the show, we're going to have some call-ins. We have a couple call-ins from 3 fans, and then we have a Sports Illustrated journalist coming on to cap off the show. So very exciting stuff to get to. And of course, right now in the world of football, we've had games midweek. We have the draw tomorrow, which if you're listening, that will technically be today. So plenty to get to. And to kick things off, I think we should just go right into the World Cup draw. So obviously today, I don't know, as we're recording Thursday, what Canada's group will be, but there are plenty of teams, as we discussed last week with DeRo in the studio, to watch out for. And I think we discussed last week what Canada's best group is. And really, it's a fun conversation, but it's not a very deep conversation because you can pick any team from pot 2 to 4 who are, lower than 50 in the international rankings or whatever the case may be. And then we have a discussion from there about, who do you think is the worst team that can make up this group? However, we haven't discussed the worst possible group for Canada, and we haven't discussed why. And I think there are plenty of teams both in pot 2 and 3, and for that matter, 4 with the teams yet to qualify, that would pose a real threat for Canada. What I don't want to see today is us have to go through a tough group at home. It happens every World Cup. There's always a group of death. This year, there's more teams, right? There's 16 more teams this year. So that poses, obviously, there's a greater chance for more groups that are more difficult. At the same token, there will be more groups that are less difficult with lower ranked teams and obviously the pot 1 teams right at the top who are the overwhelming favorites, with the pot 4 teams just being filler and almost fodder for them. However, it does pose the opportunity for more better teams to qualify and therefore more groups of death. There's always one. We've all seen the articles and the Instagram posts and the conversations at the panels about what is the group of death, this is the group of death, who makes it out of the group of death. It's a great conversation. This is very interesting this year because, again, we could get 2, we could get 3 of them. And Canada's group of death for me starts by drawing Morocco. Now, pot 2, there are teams like Croatia. In pot 2, there are teams like Colombia, who are bigger, more flashier names than Morocco. Right? You look at Croatia. Croatia have been to the World Cup semifinal. They've been to the World Cup final before that. It's coming to an end this year. I think we have to recognize that Croatia had a drop-off when they lost Ivan Rakitic, and now they're not necessarily losing Luka Modric, but they will be losing what he was even 4 years ago, even 2 years ago at the Euros. He's still an amazing player, and you'll never catch me talking poorly about Luka. But, the facts are the facts. The game is getting younger. The game is getting sort of faster. The game is demanding more endurance. And Luka's 39 years old, right? And he's 39 years old as a central midfielder. We shouldn't be worried about drawing Croatia. Not to say that I think we would win that game, but I think we could win that game. The next team that I have no problem with facing, quite frankly, is Colombia. I have less of a problem facing Colombia than I do Croatia. And the only reason for that is that we played them before. Played them multiple times. We play them in friendlies. We play them in the Copa. This is a team that we're familiar with. This is a team that, even though they are technically more gifted than us, even though they are technically more gifted than Croatia, and they right now are a better team maybe than Croatia, they have more X factors like Luis Diaz. Even though all of these things are true, right? I'm not so worried about playing them. Jesse Marsh has seen them before. All of these guys have seen them before. We recently drew them. We know the little intricacies that happen with them. We know their playbook. We know sort of, okay, Luis Diaz is going to make this run in behind. It's going to be fed by this guy. It's going to go this way. James is going to lay that pass over the top of the back. We know these things. And so that makes it easier to deal with them. Does it make it easier that Luis Diaz is one of the best players in the world? No, it doesn't. Does it make a difference that they all have amazing quality, and Colombia, quite frankly, are on fire right now? Makes it a little harder for us. However, it's a team we faced, and I feel comfortable, I feel confident in our manager's ability to analyze a situation and say, we know how to play these guys. Done it before. We'll do it again. The team that I don't want to draw from pot 2, ladies and gentlemen, is Morocco. That sounds crazy. Oh, I can't believe that. Oh my goodness. Guys, they've lost once in their last 28 games. One time. Last World Cup, they were in the semifinal. Miracle run. I'm pretty sure they beat Spain. They beat Portugal. Let's not talk about that. But they went to the semifinal of the World Cup. And since then, this team has not looked back. This team has taken that momentum from the biggest stage of international football and carried it through until now, present day. And they will likely keep on doing that until they reach the 2026 World Cup. This team as a collective unit, tactically, one of the most solid low blocks, counterattacking, one of the most solid low block structures you'll see in international football. They're disciplined, they're tactically sound, and where they lack in maybe creativity and possession and build-up play, they make up for in their scintillating counterattack. You have guys like Hakimi, who we've already talked about, and Nasiri, who is the guy who ended the Portuguese hopes in 2022. And then we have, which is, I keep on forgetting every time, we have Brahim Diaz, who plays at Real Madrid. Point being, this team is dangerous in a way that Canada is yet to fully understand. We have played Morocco before, right? But we haven't played this Morocco, our second opponent at pot 3. If you want to play Norway right now, go and get your head checked. They scored 37 goals in qualifying. Erling Haaland is the best striker on the planet, probably bar none. Okay? If you want to play Norway in the opening stages of the World Cup as Canada at home, go to the doctor's office, get your head checked. I want no part of this team. Everybody's talking about the fact that they haven't been to an international tournament in a long, long time. Well, to be fair, they're in their golden generation. Right? We're not just talking about Erling Haaland, right? We're talking about guys like Oscar Bob. We're talking about guys like Sorloth. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the great Martin Odegaard. Okay? This is a team that, where they lack defensively, they make up for in heaps offensively. This is a team that they just won't score 1 or 2 goals against you. They'll score 5. They'll score 6. They love scoring. It's not like, Germany used to play where it was, they just kept on pressing because it was their job to do. There was their job to score 7 goals against this team. No, they just love playing football. They love playing offensive football. And for me, that poses a very big problem when they play Canada. I trust in our backline, especially when Moise Bambito is back. I trust this team to be defensively solid. But there's only so much you can do against Haaland. And there's only so much you can do against Sorloth. Have you seen the size of the man? He's gigantic. Gigantic. So, for my stress levels and for yours too, I'd rather not play Norway. And the last team that I don't want in this group, or I don't want any part of, and it's more so, it's not that I'm afraid of facing the team alone. I don't want this team on top of what we would already have in this group. Because if you just add Italy into the mix, if they qualify, if the group is Morocco, Italy, Norway, Canada, that is a gigantic, hot mess. Okay? Morocco and Norway are already enough to deal with. They're already enough to deal with. But I understand that Italy are not they're in a very, very dark place right now in terms of their football. They're in a very dark place. This is the dark ages. They haven't made a World Cup in 8 years, okay? It might be longer than that. It's actually 11 years, excuse me. And if they don't make it this year, that'll be 3 straight editions. But you don't want this team in the World Cup. You don't. You don't. They may not have the most quality that they once did. They may not possess the best coach, the best striker. But what they do have is quality. Like, we are underestimating Italy, and fairly so, rightfully so, because they haven't done much, except for the fact that they won a Euros 4 years ago. Let's not forget that. They still have the quality to be a very good team. And I think if they make it through, they're in pot 4. Okay, they may not be a pot 1 team, but they're definitely a pot 2 team. They just didn't play like it. And I guarantee that any other team in pot 1 doesn't want a piece of Italy. They don't want that thorn in their side in qualification, because what Italy does better than most teams on the international stage in a tournament like this is they get hot at the perfect time. We'll move on quickly to a little chat about perhaps the best player in the world in Kylian Mbappe. And I'm going to read some things out here. And since I can't really debate myself on this issue, you can come up with the conclusions yourself if you're listening at home, okay? This season, Mbappe's form. Mbappe scored in every La Liga game this season, barring 3. He's scoring 9 UCL goals in 5 games. He's got 60 goals on the calendar year. At 26 years old, he's played 556 matches. He's got 414 goals and 177 assists. I'm not going to do the GA stuff because I don't believe in that. A goal is worth more than an assist. Factual. But these are crazy stats at 26 years old. And dare I say, folks, we're going to start having a very uncomfortable conversation about who Kylian Mbappe looks like when he plays. Watch his goal against Sevilla on Wednesday, okay? Watch it and tell me, that first goal, tell me who it looked like in the all-white uni, in the long sleeve, on the left wing. You'll never catch me saying Mbappe is better than prime Ronaldo, but that looked very much like him. Very much. And a couple years ago, we had a conversation about Kylian Mbappe when he signed that mega deal at PSG instead of going to Real Madrid. This was in 2021 or something, 2021 or 2022. And he made the decision to stay at PSG. It was obviously for the money. He had incredible clauses and contracts and personal brand deals, and he was getting tens of millions of dollars per year strictly out of his salary. That's without brand deals. It was almost like Saudi money. It was almost like that. It was very, very very close to that. And we all thought, oh, you're taking the money instead of going to Real Madrid and taking the test and being great and achieving greatness. And 3-4 years later from that point, he ended up going to Madrid, ended up setting records for the first season at Madrid, ended up getting 60 goals his first season at Real Madrid. Now he is scoring every game and assisting almost every game as well. He's got 9 goals in the UCL in 5 games. Now, in the expanded format in the Champions League, we know they play 8 games. So we know that the records that Ronaldo and all these other guys set when it used to be 6 games only, and then obviously the 2 less in the knockout stages, those are going to be broken. And it's all context. But if this was the group format that we're used to seeing in the Champions League, 9 goals in 5 games is on pace to break that record from Cristiano Ronaldo. Folks, we are looking at a season that, for me, it's going to end up with a Ballon d'Or. It's going to end with a Ballon d'Or. And the only player right now that I can see that is actually playing football, completely different position, but is playing at a high enough level to actually stop him, would be Vitinha. And even then, I think I'm making a bold claim. He is undeniable. He's undeniable. And that conversation, I watch him, and it's so apparent to me who he got his influence from. It's so obviously Cristiano Ronaldo, the way he plays. It's so clear. It's so clear. The way he runs the ball, the way he cuts up the field, the way he cuts in, the way he shoots, his skill moves, how he beats a defender is like Cristiano Ronaldo. It's like watching... I'm not going to say he's just as dynamic or just as fast or just as skilled, but he's very close. He's very close. And the numbers are starting to prove it. Kylian Mbappe has arrived, and folks, he's not going anywhere. Let's take a short break, and when we get back, we have the call-ins for the first ever time on DeRo and the Diehard podcast. We'll see you in a few minutes. Our first call-in for the show is Dylan from Burlington. Dylan, you're a Liverpool fan. How you doing, man? Is everything okay over there on your end?
Man, I don't know where to begin, to be honest with you. I think I'm hoarse right now from being yelling at the TV for the last 3 months. So I'm hoping this is my intervention call and it's going to get me back to normal. But thanks for having me.
Welcome to Liverpool's Liverpool Anonymous, man. We're here to help you get through this horrible season they're having so far. I mean, I thought things were going to turn around yesterday. Obviously, Sunderland is a difficult matchup, but they get a draw out of it, and a hard-fought draw as well. So what are your thoughts on that game, just quickly?
Well, after the fallout from the weekend, I really thought, okay, they're going to start to turn it around. Maybe, benching Mo was a good start, letting players play in their natural position. And then I get to yesterday, and if you look at the stats, they controlled the ball. I get it, 63% of the play, but then you watch the game and it's just left back, center back, right back, center back. You're just moving around the perimeter, and all Sunderland had to do was stand there and say, like, bring me your best. So, yeah, possession doesn't say anything, and I really think they're lacking vision in any strategy whatsoever, and I don't know where they're going to go from here. I'm desperate, Ben. Help me out.
Well, I have another question for you, and I mean, there comes a point in every Premier League season when you're supporting a team and you have to sort of set your expectations, and that time usually comes. They say in hockey that it's American Thanksgiving. There's not really an exact timeline in football on when you have to decide, all right, what am I actually expecting from this season? But Liverpool are 3-1-9 in their last 13 games. Your Champions League record is not very good at all. What are your expectations as a fan? Because I imagine when you came in to this season, your team spent north of, 400 million pounds? So what are your expectations now that things have not quite gone the way that you expect them to?
Let's just say they've fallen off the cliff since August. And I really thought, we spent more this summer than we ever have. And that's not typical of the ownership from Liverpool. So now we're in a scenario, we spent all this money, but we have 5 players that actually don't fit the system, if the system even exists, if I'm being honest. So we have 5 at the TK, Isaac, Frimpong, Kirkez, Wirtz, 5 of them. Only 2 of them you could argue are regular starters. And I'm thinking, so where does that leave us? We're a third of the way through the season. First place is out of the question. And I'm really thinking, can we even get to 4th? I mean,
wow.
Everybody in the Premiership now thinks you need to be top 4 because you need the money from the Champions League from the subsequent year. I get it. I don't know if we can play up to a 4th level right now. So that's where I'm at, and it's only a third of the way through the season. I'm thinking, how do we survive the next 7 months? I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, when DeRo and I have this discussion, he always brings up the point of how it's better to play poorly now and then get better towards the back end of the season. But that only works if you're on a 4 or 5 game skid. I think Liverpool, from what I've seen this year, I think, and maybe you can agree to this, are they trying to find an identity? Because they've had this rock and roll, German pressing football identity for so long now. And, I'd love to hear your thoughts about Slot and about this team's identity from a fan's perspective, from a Diehard fan perspective, actually. Do you know your own team's identity, and can you see any progression from Arne Slot?
So not only do I not see an identity, I don't see any progression. Like, we've regressed. Now, I was looking at some numbers this week. Last year we were, 1.08 goals against per game. This year we're 1.58. So
wow.
We're giving up 50% more goals than we did a year ago. Goals for, we were at 2, just over 2, now we're at 1.5. So now we're down 30%. So we can't stop people from scoring, and we can't score. And here's the thing that really frustrates. Of the goals we've given up, which is 20 before yesterday, 25% are coming from set pieces. I'm thinking, how does a professional team not know or prepare for or study how to defend against set pieces? like Slot has completely lost the plot. Slot, isn't that? All right. But anyway,
yeah.
but I'm realizing, so listen, Liverpool's it's a blue collar town, and I can compare it maybe to Napoli. Like, winning or losing, you're going to lose with pride. You're going to give every player 100%. And the only person I see doing that this year is Szoboszlai. He gives everything. You want me to be right back? I'll go all day. Midfield, forward. The rest, I'm thinking, are they out picking flowers right now? I don't see a passion of, if we're going to lose, but we're going to lose with heart and giving 100%. Like, there's no flow. Are we building from the back? Are we building from the side? We're going up the middle with Wirtz, which is a nightmare in itself. I don't see anything consistently rather than let's run up the field, stop, and move the ball back. Move it around side to side. So it's really a hopeless mandate that I'm seeing, and I don't know how they get out of it without changing the manager. That's where I'm at this point.
And before we get into some individual player form, is there the only problem I see with that, Dylan, is that there's no managers out there. It's a horrible market right now for it. And the only guy that I think could is even on anybody's radar from England would be Oliver Glasner from Crystal Palace.
I know. But then I always think about, do we do an interim? Do we do somebody from January to June, as an example?
Yeah.
Alonso's off the table. He's now signed up for, end of 28. Ancelotti's not going to, although he's only in Brazil to the end of the World Cup. Does he want to go back to a club team? Like, he's making $10 million a year now with Brazil.
I don't think so.
No. So then I'm thinking, who do I like? I'd really like to see like an Antonio Conte type of manager.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's locked up with Napoli for another, I think it's June of 27, but maybe not. Well, what about Inzaghi? After he left Inter, now he's sitting out in Saudi. He can't tell me he's not satisfied. But I want that Inzaghi, Conte, somebody that played, has passion, wear the color, bleed for the team, bleed for the fans. And you know what? We may not win every game, but we're going to know when that visiting team's here, like they are in for a battle.
100%. 100%. I think that's a really good pick there. I think Antonio Conte would be like a very, very good fit for Liverpool, just given his personality and all his passion as well. Our last question here, Dylan. We talked about the bad performance or the lack of performance from a manager tactically, but I think, let's take a look at some of these players here. Mo Salah this year has not been anywhere near what he used to be, or I guess himself. He's got 4 goals and 2 assists through 12 games in the Prem, a goal and an assist and through 3 starts in the Champions League. Virgil van Dijk is not exempt from this bashing. He hasn't been very good at all. Isak has got a goal and an assist through 5 starts in the Prem, and Wirtz, 16 games, all competitions this season, only 2 assists. Obviously, he scored that deflected goal yesterday, which unfortunately is chalked up to an own goal. I mean, I got a feel for the guy. Is this just proof in the pudding where you look at it and you go, you can sign whoever the hell you want. You can bring in X amount of players and who are this good and that good. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't think it matters, and I agree. I think Virgil's lost a step. In fact, he lost one last year.
Yeah.
Now he's lost another one, so he's really down 2 steps from his prime. Well, obviously, same thing. I think we paid him he was a good steward of the team for the last 7 or 8 years. Let's pay him. I get it, but they're both struggling. But we can't. There's nobody on the bench to replace Virgil. Like literally, no one's coming off the bench, so he has to struggle. But how can it be that Gravenberch, Gakpo, McAllister, which we don't talk about, Kanate, Virgil, they're all having their worst seasons in the last 3 or 4 years. So is it just by coincidence they're all having terrible seasons? No, it's the system that's in place. It's not allowing them to be successful. So you can have one bad game. I get it. Everybody, it's their worst game of the year. And then in the last 5, it's the system. Has to be.
Yeah.
I struggle with it.
I agree. And I don't think this bad period will last too long. And the only reason is because, you're right about Slot in terms of, maybe he is an incapable and, uninventive guy, but there's too much quality on this team for them not to be good. Even let's just call this season a write-off. Next year, I think we're going to see I think it's destined to be, Florian Wirtz is going to actually, pull through. He's going to be a fantastic player. Then you have Szoboszlai. So I don't know, Dylan, and I wish you luck, man. I really do.
Well, I appreciate the moral support, but I'm thinking like, who's my B team at this point? Because I've had to put my jersey away every week. I say I'm taking it off until Slot's gone, then I pull it out. So, I'm struggling. So, geez, dude, I appreciate the love and support, but it's a dark season, which is shocking because 6 months ago we lifted the trophy.
Oh, yeah.
How does it? I don't know how you go from that high to that low in the same calendar year. It's just it's puzzling.
Well, that's football, Dylan. That's football. Thanks, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it, and good luck to you guys in the Reds.
Appreciate the call. Thanks, and great show. And I keep listening. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, man. See you later. That was Dylan, the Liverpool friend from Burlington. As you can see, he's not happy whatsoever with the state of his team. I mean, and he shouldn't be either. It's a very tough season. Very tough season for Liverpool, and quite frankly, we've talked about this, DeRo and I, for so many episodes because it's just been the running theme. Now you talk to a fan, and the fan wants Arne Slot out. Totally agree with that sentiment. He doesn't know what's happening with the players. I think we're all in the same boat when we just don't know what's happening. We just don't know what's going on. So all luck to them, but this is something that they have to fix, and they have to fix quick, because a team that good with that much quality should not be playing this poorly. Our next call is Frank from Malton. Frank, how you doing today? What would you like to talk about on the DeRo and the Diehard show?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Look, World Cup draw on Saturday. There's no more excuses for Canada. Now's the time. Now's the time to show that you belong at the big boys table. Last World Cup, it was a tough draw, and I think in hindsight, it was tougher than it looked right off the bat. You had Morocco that went far. You had Croatia that had another great. They've always been great in the World Cup, and I think now is the time that it doesn't matter who you're up against. You need to show that you belong at the big boys table. It's Canada's time to show to the world that they're legit. Doesn't matter who you're matched up against. You got to go and you got to prove everyone. And you got to play disciplined.
I love the passion, Frank. I love the passion. Why don't you tell me what, I do agree with you. I think, the pressure is on for us this year. And I think that we need to do well, especially because we're at home. But personally, what are your expectations for Canada going into this World Cup? We do have pot 1 seeding. We don't have to worry about playing one of the tremendously big and overpowered teams. So, what would be a very successful World Cup in your opinion for Canada?
I think you got to get through. I think you got to win a knockout round game. Mm-hmm. I think you can make it to a quarterfinal. I think I'm realistic. I know that Canada isn't going to win the whole thing. I know that you have the giants of the football world that are obviously always going to win. But I think you make it to a quarterfinals. You show that you're one of the best teams in the world, one of the best countries in the world, and I think Canada has the talent for it.
Yeah.
I think it's on them to play disciplined, which has been shaky recently. They're disciplined. And I think if you make it to a quarterfinals, I think they're in a good position.
Lovely. And Frank, who has to be playing to their top form and ability for us to be able to do that? Because like you said, I think in 2022, this is a very different team than it is now. We're far more skilled. We have a better manager. We're better of a cohesive unit. We're better tactically. I think everything the team has taken multiple huge leaps ahead of what they were 4 years ago. But, we still need to rely on guys like Davies and David. So for you, who's our X factor that is going to help us reach these heights?
I think one of the things that Canada has almost better than anyone in the world, or at least up there with the best in the world, is wing play. I think with Schaffelberg to Buchanan, I think if their wing play is on and they can use that pace, down the touchline, I think they're going to be legit. And I think a lot of the older teams are going to have a harder time competing against that. And I don't think we did that last World Cup very well. I thought we relied too much on the long ball. I think we use our pace. So I'll say Buchanan and Schaffelberg have to be on.
Yeah. Very, very true. We did overuse the long ball last year. And I was screaming at the TV when they were playing Belgium, and they had Alderweireld and Vertonghen, who have a combined age of 105, and they were playing over the top against two of those guys who happen to also be 6'5". Very, very, maybe very angry. But last question here. Now, Frank, think about this without like the lens of, I want to see them win the group. What is your most ideal group for Canada? A combination of teams that we can beat and advance the knockout rounds, but also peak entertainment, having a game here in the city of Toronto. What's your most ideal group?
Well, an option that's in play, it might be a long shot, but it is in play, is Italy playing in Canada. Mm-hmm. I think with the Italian population, Italy has to get through this playoff, which we know they've struggled with in the past. But I think with the Italian population in Canada, I think you have Italy play in Toronto against Canada. I think that would be peak entertainment. Obviously, if Portugal could, that would be awesome, but that's not going to happen.
No.
But I think the fact that it's a possibility that Italy plays in Canada, I think would be unbelievable. And I think you might see some kind of civil war in the streets happen.
DeRo and I were talking about this last week. I think the whole construction industry of the GTA would shut down for 24 hours.
Nobody's driveways are getting done.
There's no concrete work being done anywhere in Southern Ontario. That's for sure. Frankie, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it. Love the energy about Canada. Let's go the Reds, man.
Thank you very much. Love the show.
Cheers, man. Thank you. That was Frankie from Malton with the very, very passionate take about Canada. I love it. I think, expectations are high this year, and we have to rise to them. The pressure is on us. We're at home, and these fans, they love football. They love football now more than ever. So I think we're going to do well, and I hope they do well. Calling in from Milton is Clem, who also happens to be my dad. Pops, what do you got for me today, man?
How you doing, son?
Good, man. Good. What do you got for me today? Let me guess. Does it revolve around Portugal?
It could revolve around Portugal because, like many in Canada, we're lucky. We have two teams that we feel, are ours and are so passionate about. But I remember 2 weeks ago, Ben, on the show, you had a great little take on, the fallout from the Ronaldo red card and, the media frenzy and the idea that, Portugal with the English-speaking media, was not among the heavyweights that people were talking about. And certainly the betting odds were kind of tepid at best, right? Mm-hmm. But listen, so I just wanted to throw some flowers to the team and a couple players in particular. And just overall, like you and I were among many Portugal fans when, Roberto Martinez was signed, we were not overly excited. Mm-hmm. But I have to say, like I'm loving the rotation and the atmosphere around the team. And I think, one of the things you pointed out is the balance and how he's used that balance. And, so I think I'm excited by the way the rotation. And the first, one of the things that I wanted to say is that very few teams have that, not the first guy off the bench, not even the second guy off the bench, but we're looking at 5-6 deep, mm-hmm. depending on game situation. And in a tournament, we all know how important that wild card is and how, adapting to situations. So that's that I got to credit to Martinez. But listen, I want to talk about the trio from PSG if I can for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah. And, because, I think, for me, little like a quieter campaign this year, but for me, still the team in Europe, still the team to beat, the reigning UCL champs. And there's something about game day that this team, and Enrique's setup is good. So for Vitinha, João Neves, and Mendes, who's the best back in world football,
yep.
Not left back, the best back in world football. Like it's just, and I mean, I know that you and I had fun watching him put little Lamal in his pocket during the Nations League final.
We did indeed.
Yeah. But, listen, I think Vitinha's starting to get the credit that he deserves. It was one of the quietest third place votes in Ballon d'Or in the last decade or so.
Good
very
point.
Quiet, and how all of a sudden it's like you had Dembele, well-deserved, incredible campaign, incredible player. You had Lamal getting his props at number 2, which I don't think he should have been there, but he's got to be top 5. And then who's this Vitinha, number 3? So it was quiet. But I mean, when we look at this kid, what I see, is the vision and calmness of a Cruz, but he moves like a prime Pirlo.
Yeah.
But, he moves and he sees the game, and then he has the grinta of like Modric, right?
Yeah,
he's got that toughness. Yeah. And I mean, that combination, he's really coming into his own. I mean, obviously, the campaign with PSG last year, everybody knows about it.
Yeah.
The way he played in the Nations League and the Euros before that, I have to say. No one really talked about his performance in the Euros 24, but he was the man. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just loving, I'm loving to watch him. It's so much fun. And I think when you have a player like this, that controls the game like this, your team is so well poised.
Let's circle back a bit here, and I think back to your Roberto Martinez point. None of us had. I don't think any Portuguese fan in particular was very optimistic about his hiring. But the one thing that I think we can all agree on that he's done very well is implement newer players. How many times when we're watching, God bless him. Right, God bless him for winning the first ever major trophy in our nation's small nation's history, as well as the following one. But what Fernando Santos did not do was evolve. He did not evolve his playing style, did not evolve his squad, and now we got guys like you said, a midfield of Neves 23, Vitinha 25, Bruno Fernandes right in his prime. I think he's 29, 30 years old. So that midfield, the way I feel right now, I'll tell you after, but do our World Cup hopes hinge on that trio being the best that they can be?
Well, for me, yes, but also here's the thing, right? Like it all starts from, look at João Neves behind Vitinha. Did you mention? Sorry, yeah, and it's like, so those two as a pivot, because Bruno for me is a wild card in a Portugal jersey.
Yeah,
and I think that there's a mental resilience about the team that it doesn't just depend on CR7. But Bruno seems to like he always wants to match the energy, and I think not only in a positive way. But to get to your point, of course, the tournament will hinge on the midfield, and that's why. But look at who's going to come on. I mean, we can bring on Paulinho.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We can bring on a Ruben Neves. I think we have this bench, and then you throw off and then does Bernardo drop back?
Yep.
I mean, there's options, you know what I mean? And of course, notwithstanding, the movement of our back line, and, you have the left and right backs, so that's going to support the midfield. But I don't see, so that's a trio. And confidently, I don't see a trio like that. I mean, I think there are certainly, like France, you look up and down the roster of France, of course you have the Spanish players, but I feel very, very comfortable, and I have a quiet confidence about this midfield for sure.
Yeah. Our last caller, we were talking about Canada, and I asked him a question about an X factor. And Portugal, it's very hard to decipher who that is. I mean, obviously, on any day it can be Cristiano, on any day it can be Bruno, and on any day it can be Nuno or Vitinha. These are things that we know. It's very clear.
Yep.
But you're talking about this wonderful depth that we have off of the bench, which truly is, I think, next to France, the best depth in Europe. Who coming off of the bench, or who can you bring off the bench to be that X factor, like we saw in 2016 when we had Quaresma coming off, who just changed the outcome of the game and changed the way the game was played at that time?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, obviously, I think that Leao could be our Quaresma, because he's so unpredictable. I mean, the kid is ridiculously talented, but he's so unpredictable, but he's so dangerous. And when I see Leao and Mendes galloping down the left side, I just feel like that, like no one knows what to do with that. But here's the thing, is this finally the tournament? Will he finally string a couple of few games together where Felix has an effect? Where João Felix,
right?
He's escaped the glare of Europe. He's playing in Saudi. No one's talking about him, but you see some of the highlights. You just see it like he's a weird guy, right? Like maybe this quieter campaign is bringing him back to playing the game and internalizing the game that he's comfortable with, because we all know his talent, right?
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, he's found a space for himself where he's the expectations are different, and I think bringing him off, I don't necessarily want to start him, right?
Yeah,
but I think he's a dangerous guy to bring off the bench, and maybe I don't know, I'm 50-50 on this one, right? Because I don't want to put my money on a player who's looked so good and disappointed us in the past, right?
A lot of times as well.
Yeah, but on the other hand, like things have changed for him.
Yeah.
And so that to me, there's someone there. Is this a tournament where João Felix makes a difference in a couple of games that sends the team in the right direction, sends the team over the hump,
Yeah, no, it's funny. I think we all collectively forget about João Felix every month or so, just because he's not playing in Europe, or he's not, at the center of the headlines. But this is a guy with a lot of skill. This is a guy who was bought, I think he's Atletico Madrid's record transfer fee. There's a reason why he was bought for that much. There's a reason why he was touted so highly. He's got skill. He can
change things. Yeah.
Our last question. Personally, what are your expectations for Portugal in this World Cup?
Semi-final is a minimum for me.
Wow.
Yeah. I think listen, I think this is going to be a strange World Cup, because I think there's going to be, unfortunately, a lot of duds in the first round.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Like an expanded field. It's a long season. I think our stars are always overplayed. You and I have talked about this. So I think the rhythm of this World Cup is going to feel a little different. So I'm going to have to hold back my excitement to the ups and downs of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like we'll see the draw tomorrow, right? We'll see the draw.
Yes.
But no, you and I have seen in the past that Portugal has been in the group of death before.
Multiple times.
And that's a good thing for them.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's a great test. So I got to call it right here. Like you and I are watching a semifinal of Portugal in it. And who knows what's happening after that?
Oh, all right. Well, thanks for thanks for coming on, Pops. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben, and congrats on the show. You guys are doing a great job bringing a Canadian voice to world footy.
Yeah. Cheers, man. All right, we'll see you later.
Cheers. Okay, bye.
Well, there you have it. I mean, lots of World Cup expectations from different nations. I mean, a Portugal semifinal berth. I got to say, I totally agree with the old man. This is a team that is truly in its golden era. Truly, not even a golden era. This is the best team that Portugal, I think, has ever had. I think when you look at all the positions around the field, that this good of a team garners high expectations. And there's a lot of pressure on them. There's a lot of pressure. And we can go back and forth all day about whether or not Ronaldo should start or should be on the bench or Leao should be on. The point is, that's a good argument to have. It's a good thing to have a conversation of, hey, who should you start now? Who should we bring on this guy? Bring on that guy. Great, because we have a player for every circumstance and every situation. Our next interview here is Ben Steiner, a journalist at Sports Illustrated and a host of the Northern Football Podcast. Went to uni with him as well. Ben, thanks for coming on, man. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Glad to be on with you today.
Absolutely. You excited for the draw tomorrow? I mean, any expectations for this group that Canada could pull out?
Well, it's going to be an entertaining draw. I think we've seen all the presenters and entertainers that have come out to be at the Kennedy Center for tomorrow. So it'll certainly be interesting. And, we've watched many draws over the years, and it should take half an hour, but it will take probably 2 hours. So I'm excited for it. And you've got to hope that Canada gets a friendly group. And I hope that first game's a winnable game. It would suck to have that first game be a real challenge because you want that to be a party.
Exactly. So let's go right into their group. So, we talk a lot about the group that we want, and we can just choose a bunch of teams from pot 2, 3, and 4, and they could be low ranked. But why don't you tell me about the worst case scenario for Canada? Who could we have in the group that could really screw up any knockout round ambitions we have?
I think, honestly, any team could screw up knockout round ambitions. This is still a country that has never won a World Cup game, never tied a World Cup game. Mm-hmm. So we do have to kind of level our expectations on that. I know it's a different World Cup, given the fact it's 48 teams, given there's a lot of World Cup debutants in this tournament. But when you look at the worst possible scenario for Canada, I think it has to be Morocco, given their talents and what they did to Canada at the last World Cup. Mm-hmm. Norway, I don't want to see Erling Haaland against Canada in the group stage. Not a fan of Rasmus Højlund either.
Nope.
And then the winner of UEFA Playoff A, which is probably Italy. And I think we can all imagine what a World Cup opener in Toronto against Italy would look like. And that would not be the home game, the celebratory moment that Canada would want. And you would also think that Italy, with their players playing their country's first World Cup game in over 10 years, would probably be up for that challenge. And I don't see Canada advancing from Morocco, Norway, Italy group, and that's a possibility that we could see tomorrow.
Yeah, what's funny, Ben, is I had those 3 teams written down on my notes here. I don't want anything to do with Morocco, and actually the team I want the least to do with is, like you said, Norway. I mean, Haaland can stay in the States. I don't want him crossing the border even. Let's get to a little, squad questions about Canada. Moise Mbito has been out with injury for a while now with the broken tibia. He'll be back for the summer, but if there is a case where we have to play without him in our back line, how do you feel? Or do you feel confident that we can have as solid of a defense as we did, let's say, in the Copa America?
I think the opportunity is there, given the depth and experience now on this back line. Alfie Jones makes a massive difference in terms of the depth. As long as you have one of Moise Mbito or Derek Cornelius, and Cornelius has dealt with injury troubles of his own after making the move to Rangers earlier this year. But if you look at the depth that you have for one or two options, outside of that starting center back pairing of Bombito and Cornelius, you can go to Alfie Jones. He looked fine against Venezuela. He's a 28-year-old physical center back. You know what you're going to get with him. And he's imposing and
seem to settle within that group. And then Luc Defouge-Rolls. He wasn't in the last camp, but he's 20 now. He's playing regular men's football for the first time with FSV Dender in Belgium. And he's a player that has already shown to be fantastic with the Canadian men's national team. And I think that you can be confident in those two. But of course, the ceiling is much higher with Bombito and Cornelius as that center back pairing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And let's go to a little bit of offense now. Aside from bigger names like David and Davies, who in your opinion is our biggest X factor, is a guy that will be able to turn it up in these high stakes games and sort of deliver for the country?
You're saying Davies is on the offense, so that's going to be a change from how Jesse Marsh has played Alphonso Davies so far, but certainly is a question whether Alphonso Davies is going to be playing at left back or left midfield. I think the difference maker is going to be whether Buchanan can be a similar threat on that right side, though, because when he's good, he's one of Canada's best players. When he's good, he's borderline world class, but he hasn't had a lot of those moments recently. He had a hat trick in La Liga earlier this year. He's had some good moments with Villarreal, but it's been a while since we've seen peak Tajon Buchanan with Canada. And if he's in form, if he's firing on all cylinders, I think that Canada attacking up both sides of the pitch is vital. And then I think you can say the same with Jonathan David. He played well for Juventus in the last game. He probably should have had 2 goals given to him, and instead he has an own goal assist and one taken back on VAR. But you need Jonathan David scoring goals. You need to figure out who's going to play alongside him. I still think that's going to be Taniela Wasei. But Canada's ability to hit in transition moments is going to be key, and that's going to be part of the reason why they're able to potentially break down some of the low blocks they'll face.
Yeah, great. Lastly, before we let you go, unrelated to Canada, I know you must be very excited for the MLS Cup final this Saturday. Big Vancouver fan here. Imagine the nerves are real, but are you confident that the Whitecaps can get a result despite Miami's scintillating sort of unstoppable form?
I don't know if either team is necessarily confident when it comes to this game. There's a lot of odds out there that are fairly close on playoffpredictor.com. The Whitecaps are that's the only system where I've seen the Whitecaps have the edge of 52%. So either team can win this game. And I think for some people, it would be a shock if the Whitecaps come out winning against Messi, but Thomas Muller has played Messi 10 times. He's won 8 of them, and the 2 wins that Messi has are in friendly. So It's very much a possibility. Andres Kubas knows how to play Messi. This is a Whitecaps team that kept Messi and many of those stars off the score sheet, beating them 5-1 on aggregate in the Champions Cup earlier this year. Either team can win this game, and there's reasons to believe that the Whitecaps can, and plenty of reasons, in particular one, that Miami could win this game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be cheering for Vancouver all the way from Ontario here. Ben, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. All the best.
Anytime, boys.
Cheers. That was Ben Steiner, Sports Illustrated, host of the Northern Football Podcast. Very, very good insight on Canada. Yeah, you heard it. I mean, I like all of our call-ins today had a little bit of hint of optimism, but also we were a little bit, reserved in our confidence, which I'm okay with. I mean, I have all the confidence in this team in the world, and we have a good enough roster to really make waves this year. Even though we haven't won a World Cup game in our history, which is true, we have to focus on that. But folks, that'll be it. Thank you for tuning into episode 13 of DeRo and the Diehard. We'll be back next week with the best football podcast north of the border, and DeRo will be back discussing all the happenings that occurred at the World Cup draw tomorrow. Stay safe, stay tuned, and love the beautiful game. Cheers.